So once again, good evening, everyone. This is CA Sagar Jaivan, and the topic of the day is uh, the in trading in shares by companies. So actually, if if you are not given attention to this particular topic, we say, hey, what's there? What's different? What's different in trading in shares by companies? But after we see lot of case laws, discussions, and the sections we read again and again, we come to know that there are a lot of things to be learned, experienced, and who else? Who else is better than one of our members, CA Pramod Prabhudesai? He is going to lead. And last time, actually, Dr. Vishnu Kandhere had suggested one word, and that was facilitator. So I will call him as leader. He is facilitator. Now you would be asking as to, there was some kind of a conclusive part of Rule 46A, which was being discussed by Dr. Vishnu Kandhere. Yes, but today, or rather tonight, somehow he has got some urgent meetings, and therefore he is not available. So we will wait for the second part of this 46A, or concluding part, the conclusion of whatever we had discussed in the last meeting related to Rule 46A. In the meantime, uh, Pramod Prabhudesai has taken up this baton, and he has made this material, superb material, in a very short period of time. And he is now ready with some kind of, I won't again call it as a lecture. Those who have joined for the first time, let me tell you that this is not going to be a lecture. This is a discussion meeting. Now, what kind of discussion and how we are going to discuss? You can stop the speaker at some point of time and ask the question. However, just not to disrupt the flow, I would suggest that speaker will himself give you an opportunity after certain point is covered. He'll stop and ask, or ask you to make the contribution, ask the question, and there are some seniors who are also available. So when they are talking something, they are definitely not correcting him. They are actually contributing, they are suggesting, they are expressing their views, and therefore there is nothing like a senior or junior. If at all any question comes to your mind, however small it may be, whenever that chance is given, you can ask the question, because that may be in the mind of each and every person, or maybe many of the persons who are attending this. So if you just listen to this meeting, ask the question and deliberation, I'm sure that at the end of the meeting, you will certainly be one level up, because there are so many stalwarts. So it's not only the group leader, but others are also contributing a lot by expressing their opinion. And it is a collective knowledge of so many people which will help us to take us to the next level. So we are trying to give you the experience which was otherwise not available, because when somebody goes for an appeal, only that person goes for an appeal. Other 40%, 50% who are present today, they might not be attending with him, but the points are different each type, and how you handle that kind of a situation is also something some seniors will be explaining at some point of time. So with this description, only one request, that whenever you want to ask any question, unmute yourself. You can put on your video if possible. uh, Say who is speaking, what is her name. First of all, I have also forgotten to say my name. I am CA Sagar Jaivan, and I am doing this activity only for the purpose of sharing the knowledge. In the process, I am also learning. So all these meetings are certainly free, and anybody who is interested can always join this meeting. So coming back to our point, that you can actually unmute yourself, say your name, open the video if you want, and then ask the question, so that you others also know who is asking the question, and there will be some kind of a easiness in understanding and explaining the things to others. So with this brief introduction of this group and the meetings, let me, so this is the fourth meeting actually, and these meetings have been very successful, and our attendance is also increasing day by day. So this is a very good sign. And any of you is interested in leading or facilitating, you can always contact me. You don't have to be expert. Once you want to do something, just let us know that you want to do that. You can start preparing the material. There are seniors who have volunteered to wait your material, see your material, review your material, guide you on the subject, whichever subject, of course, related to direct tax appeals or some intricacies related to assessments. and direct tax only. So you can also do it at some or the other day. With this, I would request CA Pramod Prabhudesai to lead this discussion, and I will share the screen whenever and whatever way he wants. So Pramodji, you can introduce your subject and then we can start sharing the screen. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Pramodji, it's up to you now. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sagar. First of all, I will request Deepak, both are here. So wherever I am really speaking, committing any errors, blunders, please do correct me. With this small introduction, let me start with this subject. Why I chose this particular subject? The reason is, basically when I was going through section 73 explanation, some of the judgments I saw were showing dividend income as taxable. It was considered as income from other sources. And in most cases, the losses arising trading in shares were set off against this particular income from other sources, rather dividend. So the point is, for financial year, as we are aware, dividend has become taxable. Therefore, I thought that this is the perhaps right time to start with. Sagar, can we have this particular first document as trading in shares by companies and tax implications?
Yes.
Right.
Give me a moment.
Yeah. So basically, the structure of this particular presentation, I have made it in such a manner that as far as trading is concerned, there is no dispute that I am carrying out whether investment activity, trading activity. Yes, I am doing a trading in shares. This is a delivery of the shares. Now, in that scenario, in what circumstances this particular loss or profit arising out of such trading in shares, even though it is delivery, can be treated as a speculation profit or speculation loss. That is what is the purpose of this discussion. But before we go into this, I thought it proper just as a matter of introduction to start with. So first is, as far as shares are concerned, when shares are held as an investment, the resultant gain or loss will be capital gain, depending upon the hold as to whether short term, long term. Income arising out of that on a revenue stream will be considered as income from other sources such as dividend and interest. Now, when shares are held as a trading asset, that means where shares are held as a stock in trade, the resultant gain or loss is a business profit. We will deal with it as to whether this particular profit can be treated as a speculation or not. That is something which is section 73 explanation is talking. Now, if share transactions are settled otherwise than by way of a delivery, they are treated as a speculation. Futures and options are definitely not shares. Now we come to the principle related to shares which are held as a stock in trade. Now, principles of valuation are generally given in Accounting Standard 2 and Accounting Standard 13. If we see, Accounting Standard 2 has got an exception made where it says that shares and securities will not be valued under AS 2. They will be valued under AS 13. In AS 13, you do not have a, but there are current investments. And current investments are something which are really speaking held for a earning profit. Now we go to the next part is when the bonus shares are held as a stock in trade, then in that case, the principle of a cost of zero of this bonus shares is not applicable, and bonus shares, we will have to take an average cost. As far as shares are concerned, most of the people value them at cost or market price, whichever is lower. Conceptually, keep one thing in mind. There are three concepts. One is cost, second one is market price, and then comes a book value. Now, for this particular purpose, I have given one small case study at page number 1, just below. This is something which we will consider pre-ICDS situation and post-ICDS situation. Take a case that I have purchased shares on 1st of January 2020 for rupees 100. Shares are held as a stock in trade. and they are valued at cost or market price. Now, as on 31st of March 2020, the market price of these shares is rupees 80. So we will be valuing these shares for the purposes of our stock valuation at 80 rupees. Now, in this particular case, you have got three concepts. Your purchase price is 100 rupees, that is cost is 100 rupees. Your market price is 80 rupees. And in this particular case, book value is 80 rupees. Now take a case that from 1st April 2020 to 31st March 2021, there is no movement in these shares. Same stock is being carried forward to 31st of March 2021, when the price of this share comes to 95 rupees. At this point in time, that is as on 31st of March 2021, how you will value these shares? Because you are supposed to be comparing cost or market price, whichever is lower. In this particular case, cost is 100 rupees, book value is 80 rupees, but market price is 95 rupees. And therefore, in this particular case, these shares will be valued at 95 rupees as on 31st of March 2021. It so happens that we as accountants, when we are carrying the stock valuation from one period to another, we usually with the opening stock, and there the valuation is mentioned as 80 rupees, and then we get confused as to whether 80 was a cost or 80 was a market price or the book price. And therefore, it is always advisable when we are doing the stock valuation to carry all the columns of the previous year, which are comparing to the next year, so that you are never ever losing sight of this particular valuation principle. Another aspect which I just wanted to bring it here is usually we as accountants believe that on the stock valuation will not be a profit. But here you will see in an intervening period, that is before the shares are sold, there is a profit on the stock valuation. Here in this particular case, 80 rupees was the opening stock as on 1st April 2020, 31st of March 2021. We have 95 rupees as a stock valuation, and therefore there is a 15 rupees book profit, which is getting reflected in your trade. This is what was the principle which I just wanted to really speaking tell. Now you come to this pre-ICDS situation when there are more than one scripts. Therefore, I have given a table below that if there are two scripts, suppose A and B, what you will do is you are not there valuing it on a global basis. Earlier, what you used to do is you used to compare each script wise cost and market price, and thereafter you used to calculate lower of the two. And therefore, in this particular case, if you see script having a market price of 80 rupees, and therefore the book value will be 80. In second case, market price is 130, and therefore this share will be valued at 100. So the total of this stock valuation in this particular case in pre-ICDS was 180. Now in post-ICDS, we have a different concept introduced in ICDS, Income Competition and Disclosure Standard 2, which is relating to valuation of inventories. There is an exclusion in para 1C, which says that this income competition and disclosure standards shall be applied for valuation of inventories except shares, debentures, other financial. So if shares are held as a stock in trade, then in that case, we are required to value for the purposes of ICDS under ICDS 8 and not ICDS 2. Now, what does ICDS 8 say? The relevant para I have reproduced there. At the end of any previous year, securities held as stock in trade shall be valued at actual cost initially recognized or net realizable value at the end of that previous year, whichever is lower. Now, for the purposes of para 9, the comparison of actual cost initially recognized and net realizable value shall be done category wise and not for each individual security. And for this purpose, you are supposed to be categorizing or classifying your securities into shares, debt securities, and convertible security. Now, the same example which we had earlier taken, now suppose I take it here in post ICDS era, you will note that you are supposed to be comparing here only there are shares. So I will compare cost of 200, market price is 210. I am supposed to value this at lower of 2 and therefore that is at 200 rupees. So the valuation there will be at 200 rupees. This is actually the general introduction to the stock valuation, which I just wanted to take for the purposes of our further discussion, which is the main purpose. And that is something which is explanation to section 73, which we are going to discuss a little bit in detail. Now, what does this section 73 talk about?
Sir, I was just suggesting that as per our practice, since you have completed this up to a particular level, we can stop, wait, and ask people if they have something to add, contribute, ask if they have not understood something. Okay, right from the beginning.
Sure.
So let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Anyone has got any questions? If somebody has not understood something or wants more clarification on whatever he has discussed right from the beginning, maybe from here.
Prabhu sir, it is also applicable to mutual fund.
Which this post ICDS?
Yes.
Yes, of course, because that is something which you will have to consider in the securities.
Okay, thank you.
Am I audible?
Yeah, please. You can put on your video and please give your name if it is.
My name is Ankit. I wonder if the mutual fund is in. If the mutual fund is included here, then whether investing in liquid mutual fund for treasury would be considered as trading stock and trade.
No.
Did you get my question?
No, I think your
treasury income, treasury transactions, would it be stock in trade or it would be an investment activity?
That depends on your perception. If at all, treasury, according to me, should be considered as a stock in trade. No?
Okay.
This is my.
Okay.
Any different opinion on this? Okay, any other question or clarification required, or if you want to contribute something?
So Dipesh here, even in case of treasury, will it not depend how I treat that treasury? Like liquid funds, I understand they get reinvested, right? So whether that will not be a capital asset in terms of 214.
I am not very well conversant on this matter, please. So, as far as treasury operations are concerned, I think somebody else will have to reply. I'm really not aware of this matter.
So, sir, in case of treasury, the only difference is you can use it like a liquid fund. You can withdraw it anytime, and you can reinvest in some another fund. So, just to give you a short example, whenever my business is need, so I can withdraw that funds. I can reput it in again in the mutual funds. So it's like a mutual fund only with a withdrawable option. You can withdraw it at any point in time. It's a liquid fund. It's liquidly available, basically.
No, right. But what is the purpose for
between stock in trade and the investment is that stock in trade is held when with the intention to sell it and sell it at a profit at a later date. This would amount to investment of surplus funds and it would remain like an investment. This was what I feel.
Correct, sir. Correct.
That's what I was coming to.
Yeah, actually, treasury operation is not really an a trading activity. It is actually an investment because only you can park these funds, excess funds for very short duration, 1 week or even 2 days, 3 days. So then you can't really call it as a trading activity actually.
No, frankly speaking, I think it will depend, Deepak, on the frequency of transactions.
True.
Because when you are using the word or phrase treasury, you first need to define what treasury is. Now, if in a treasury operation or a treasury, as you rightly said, it is normally used in consonants or in the context of banks. So they park funds which they do not immediately require for deployment in a treasury. But you will find that in the last few years, many banks have been reflecting a significant amount of income from treasury on account of the fact that they are dealing in securities in a very rapid manner. Now, in that context, where the intent always is to make money very quickly, in the sense the turnover of those securities is very fast. In that scenario, would you still call it, let's forget anything else. For a moment, set aside the explanation to section 73. In that scenario, what would you call such a operation? So according to me, to call it capital or business income, or capital gains or business income, would really depend on the frequency of the transaction and the intent, nothing else.
That's what I am. Anil, don't you think that we should really speaking have a perception at the time why I'm entering into that particular transaction?
There I think we are getting into a much larger question, because then perception or intent, whether one sees it at the time of acquisition of the security or share or at a later point of time, would also be a question.
Yeah, true. That's right.
Anyway, I think I made my point, what I wanted to say. So it's wrong to say that, that's my belief. It's wrong to say that everything will always be business or always be capital.
Be an investment. Yeah. Anybody else? Can we go further now?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think,
Sagar?
yeah, you can move further, because if they have got any question, they will always ask, come back to even at the, second leg of your
Yeah.
lecture. Yeah.
See, here the purpose of this particular explanation to section 73, this was introduced in 1975 Taxation Laws Amendment Act. The purpose is some, we should go back to that period and find out that at that time there were no demat accounts, and large industrial houses, especially the group companies, used to manipulate their profits and losses. So what they used to do was, just around the year end, somebody is selling shares, rather transferring them blank transfers, and thereafter next year again you are taking back. So people used to book this type of losses as business losses. To overcome this, I'm not naming that industrial house purposely, perhaps everybody would have noted that this particular explanation was introduced. At that point in time, we had certain investment company concept, which is now not there, and therefore this particular explanation has been changed a bit. Last of this particular change was in 2014, when
अभी तो बेटा बड़ी जल्दी है, बना लो फिर.
Hello.
अभी बहुत.
Yeah. Kindly mute yourself, please. Yeah. So now let us go to this explanation to section 73. We will explanation once, and thereafter we will go on dealing with it. What it says is, where any part of the business of a company, I have purposely marked certain words in yellow so that we will come to that portion later. Into bracket, it says, other than a company whose gross total income consists mainly of income which is chargeable under the heads interest on securities, income from house property, capital gains, and income from other sources, or a company business of which is the business of trading in shares, of banking, or the granting of loans and advances. So here, if you see into the bracket, there are two exceptions provided. One is where the gross total income, as you are aware, gross total income is defined in section 80B subsection 5. where the gross total income is consisting of income other than which is more than the business income. That is one particular exception. And second exception is in the principal business which is carried out. Earlier, principal business had only banking and granting of loans and advances. Very lately, they have added business of trading in shares. And if such a business consists in the purchase and sale of shares, purchase and sale of shares of other companies, such company shall, for the purposes of this section, be deemed to be carrying on a business to the extent to which this business consists of purchase and sale of such shares. Now, if at all we paraphrase this particular explanation, explanation is applicable to a company. So this explanation is not applicable to any other associate. Company includes private, listed, unlisted, whatever it is. Explanation is applicable if part of the business of a company consists in purchase and sale of shares of other companies. We will deal with one particular judgment on word any part. Then we will know part includes whole or not. And that explanation is not applicable to following classes of companies, that is exception to the explanation. Now, that explanation I have purposely tabulated. So if at all you see on the left-hand side, class of a company is where any part of the business of a company other than a company, which is a yellow portion, or company, the principal business of which is the business of trading in shares or banking, consists in the purchase and sale of shares of other companies. Such a company shall, for the purposes of this section, be deemed to be carrying on a speculation business to the extent of to which the business consists in the purchase and sale of such shares. So from the highlighted portion, you will observe that where the gross total income is consisting mainly of income which is chargeable under the head in income from house property, capital gains, and income from other sources, that is not covered under explanation to section 73. So exception carved out in the explanation is applicable to such company. Now it is to be noted that to apply a test of composition of gross total income, what one has to see is what head of income constitutes main component of the gross total income. If such an arithmetical test, this is something which is really a pure arithmetic, which you are supposed to be really speaking comparing. If the arithmetic reveals that main component of income is non-business income, that is aggregation of income chargeable under the head interest on securities, etc., as compared to income under the head income from business, then in that event, explanation will not be applicable to such a company, and such company shall not be treated as carrying on a speculation business, irrespective of the other business which is carried on by the company. So conversely, if the main component of income is business income, then according to the deeming provisions contained here in above, income has to be treated as speculation income. So this is the explanation, and this explanation, to an extent, being a deeming provision, has created such a havoc that, really speaking, most of these particular terms have been interpreted by the courts, tribunals. Now let us start with individual interpretations which have been given. So now, first is, really speaking, what was the purpose of introducing this explanation? Is it possible, Sagar, to open that annexure 1, which is Aman portfolio?
Yeah, I'll do that. Is this the one you're talking about?
Yeah, Aman portfolio is Delhi's SMC case.
Yeah, this is Delhi SMC case.
Yeah. See, here, this is a judgment of the Delhi SMC, and of course, by our Mr. Ishwar, this judgment was delivered. Why I have brought this particular judgment is, here, at the time of passing this particular judgment, legislative intent was considered in introducing this particular provision, if you see the head note, in the head note, what portion I have marked, whether explanation to section 73 can be invoked only where a device is adopted by certain categories of companies by indulging in such share transactions which are apparently real and may even involve actual delivery, but are carried out with the object of reducing taxable income, held yes. Whether since in instant case, there was no material on record to show that SSE was a company controlled by a business house and that share transactions had been effected with a view to manipulate and reduce its taxable income, income tax authorities were not justified in treating loss incurred by SSE as a speculative loss by invoking explanation to section 73. So here in this particular case, what had happened was the judgment was delivered after taking into consideration the legislative intent. Also, the losses were done with the group companies, and if losses were not made with the group companies, then such losses were not to be treated as a speculation loss. Here, but I haven't come across any further judgments on these lines where the intention of legislature only was considered. I don't know, Anil, perhaps anything you have come other than this, you can really speaking guide us if at all there is anything. Because I did not come across only on this interpretation part that whether there is any other judgment on this matter.
No, in fact, it is only because Ishwar rendered this judgment. Otherwise, if you look to the bare text of the law,
yes,
the explanation begins with the words where a part of the business.
Correct.
Now, therefore, to go into intent, etc., is something which. But anyway, this is a solitary judgment, and I think one should be careful about.
That's why I just wanted to tell that as we always say that when you are a slippery ground and otherwise you are unable to advance any argument, then in that case you can fall back on these kind of things just to try and come out of the awkward situation in which you have landed yourself. So, but this cannot be used for the tax planning. But here I just wanted to tell that Mr. Ishwar in this particular case has really speaking dealt with as to why this explanation was introduced. This particular circular number 204 of 24 July 1976 is also referred to here. And if at all one can go here below paragraph number 5, I'll read this. That was the reason why the explanation was inserted. While inserting the explanation was taken to leave out of its sweep companies which do not have any income under the head business on the footing that these companies would be predominantly investment companies carrying on genuine investment business for the benefit of the members or shareholders and should therefore be spared the rigor of the explanation. Banking companies or finance companies who in the course of their business may have shared so excluded, presumably on the assumption that these companies are not likely to indulge in manipulations as their predominant business that of money lending. Moreover, they were governed by RBI and all this particular thing is there. But as Anil also said that this is really a solitary judgment, but I just wanted this particular thing to come to your notice and therefore I have given this. Further, basically in the last but one paragraph, paragraph number 7 also, he has dealt extensively on this particular intent of the legislature. In that circular, there was para 19.1 explained exactly this situation, and para 19.2, it is explaining as to why this particular provision was introduced. Except for this particular thing, I don't think this particular judgment serves any purpose. Unfortunately, the factual matrix is also not very clear. It is only talking about the loss, but other composition of the total income, I could not gather at least. Because
Pramod, only one factor is that this judgment will have teeth now. Yes. Because after the introduction of GAR, yes, where the authorities will now have the right to set aside or recharacterize a transaction, that will be this sort of judgment which says that the intent of the explanation to 73 is this, yes, would in combination with a GAR provision, to illustrate, you do a transaction of say maybe 20 crores purchase and 10 crores sale to overcome a particular situation and create a loss, that would, if a tax effect is larger than 3 crores, today be capable of being ignored or recharacterized under GAR. So now, with GAR being on the anvil and you do a planning of this sort, one has to be careful. That's the
Yes, yeah. So now we come to
have you covered Mysore Rolling Mills case 195 ITR 404?
No, I have not covered in this. Yeah.
Here, the Karnataka High Court has held that loss on sale of shares of a sister concern is a short-term capital loss.
But then, really speaking, you are going into the investment part. No? The shares are held as an investment. If at all subsidiary shares will be always classified as investment and they will not be treated as a trading shares. No?
No, but this section doesn't talk about whether shares are held as investment or as stock in trade.
Yeah, of course. Explanation talks about business carried out. So investment gains are out of this. Once you have classified your shares as trading, then only this will become applicable. Otherwise, this explanation does not become applicable. Investment profits do not get affected because of this explanation.
Deepak, the first part of the test is where a part of the business of the company consists of. So therefore, as you rightly pointed out in Mysore Rolling, if the point is that if the part of the business of the company, and Pramod will take us through whether part includes whole, but if that test is not satisfied, the explanation does not come or is not triggered, is what the view is.
Yes.
So
you have covered Prasad Agents case?
He's taking that.
I have covered Prasad Agents because Prasad Agents was only in connection with the loss on valuation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall we?
Yeah.
1 minute. Yeah, so now the next we are going is any part of the business of the company. Now, this is something which is really speaking a very nice explanation by Calcutta High Court. This is in Arvind Investments. Sagar, is it possible for you to open Annexure 2? Yeah, as Anil was explaining, that this explanation triggered when any part of the business of the company like that it starts. So here what has happened is, if you see the head note, accordingly accepting the assessee's contention, it held that where a part of the business of a company consisted of the purchase and sale of shares, then only the explanation to section 73 would come into play, and not otherwise when the sole business of the company was in shareholding. This particular thing was negated here, and it was held that part includes whole. Now here, if at all you go further down into this judgment, I don't know the page number, but paragraph number I can give you. This is on paragraph 11 at the bottom. I have marked this, that the explanation to section 73 introduces a legal fiction. The section applies only to a company. It does not apply to individuals, firms, HUF, and AOP. The explanation also does not apply to an investment company or a company whose principal business is banking, money lending. Now you come to paragraph number 14, where it's observed in the case of Duckworth Spit that any is a word which excludes limitation or qualification. In the case of so-and-so, it was held that a power in a lease enabling the lessor to resume possession of any portion of the premise enabled him to resume all the portions. In the case of so-and-so, it was held that the power to remove any of the present directors included the power to remove all the directors. Now, this is very interesting. If a municipality has a right to pull down any part of a building which has been built in contravention of municipal laws, then the municipality can pull down the entire building if it is found that the whole building has been built without any sanctioned municipal plan. Now you come to paragraph number 17. If one examines of the words anyone in common conversation or literature, there can be no doubt that they are not infrequently used to mean everyone, not one but all. Thus we say, can see that this is wrong to mean everyone can see that this is wrong. Anyone may enter does not mean that only one person may enter, but that all may enter. It is permissible and indeed profitable to turn in this connection to the Oxford English Dictionary, which we find the meaning of any given thus. In affirmative sentences, it asserts concerning a being or thing of the short name without limitation as to which, and thus collectively of every one of them. One of the illustrations given is, I challenge anyone to contradict my assertion. Certainly, this does not mean that one only challenged, but that all are challenged. It is abundantly clear, therefore, that anyone is not infrequently used to mean. So basically what it said was, if at all, any part of the business of a company, supposing this company was carrying before this amendment, the entire business was of purchase and sale of shares, then the entire business will be considered as speculation business. You cannot say that my whole business is purchase and sale of shares, and therefore this explanation is not applicable. And therefore, this particular judgment you need to keep in mind. But of course, what has happened is in 2014, we have an amendment which now gives you an exception that if at all the principal business is of purchase and sale of shares, then in that this explanation gets excluded, and therefore then in that case such a loss will not be treated as a speculation loss. So this was the purpose of bringing this particular judgment to the notice of everybody. Now we go to next part. Now the question is purchase and sale of shares of other companies. Now if you see, once again, let us go back to the explanation. Any part of the business of a company which consists in the purchase and sale of shares of other companies. So when you are saying purchase and sale of shares of other companies, whether it is necessary that purchase and sale of shares should be in the same year, does it cover even valuation losses when purchase is in year 1 and shares are held as stock in trade? And on valuation of stock, your resultant loss will be treated as a speculation loss. Here we have got this judgment of Prasad Agents Private Limited. This is Bombay again, which says that loss arising on valuation, which is in the normal course, we may be treating it like a business loss. If at all you are not falling in an exception, then in that case, that loss will be also treated as a speculation loss. That's what is this annexure 3. But I think this is a small point. We really speaking, if somebody wants, we can read it also. So just find it out. Yeah. The head note says, there can be no difference between the losses suffered in the course of trading by delivery and losses in terms of the book value, as long as the assessee is carrying on business of trading by way of purchase and sale of shares, even if in respect of any financial year there are no transactions, and yet the company has shares, the book value will have to be considered for the purpose of considering the profit and loss in case of speculative business. There can be no doubt that the explanation to section 73 cannot be read to mean only when there is a purchase and sale of shares in the course of the financial year. The explanation to said section will cover both shares which are stock in trade and shares which are traded in the financial year for the purposes of considering the loss and profit for that year. The tribunal had correctly observed. So this is, really speaking, I wanted to bring it to the attention of everybody. Now, next point in this is whether, see, basically, if you see the head note to this particular section 73 talks about speculation losses. And therefore, some people have advanced even an argument that whether only losses are covered under explanation to 73 or profits also are covered. For that also, we have got, fortunately, Lokmat newspaper's judgment from Bombay High Court, and Samba Trading is the old judgment. That particular thing can you take out Sagar Annexure 4 Samba Trading? Is it possible? See, here, if you see paragraph 4, in paragraph 4, it is mentioned, it is pleaded that there is no basis for this distinction at all. It is contended that the explanation does not say that the loss from normal business shall be deemed to be a speculation loss, but states that such business shall be deemed to be a speculation business. In other words, the distinction sought to be made by the commissioner on the basis of their result, that is, loss of the profit, does not hold good. It is also contended that income includes loss on the basis of the Calcutta High Court decision in the case of Eastern Aviation, Calcutta. Now, here, it was one of the very nice argument which was really speaking put forward. What they said is, if at all, the way department is trying to interpret, if at all we introduce this interpretation, then what will happen is, a share on which there is a deemed speculation loss will fall apart. It will be separate. If at all there is a profit, that profit will not be treated as a speculation profit. So it will be treated as a normal profit, and the deemed speculation loss will not be allowed to be set off. So that is why they say that this kind of interpretation should not be provided for. And therefore, just at the end of paragraph 4, you will see I have marked, according to the CIT, it will never be able to set off its losses from shares trading treated by CIT as speculation loss against the profit from share trading treated by CIT as a non-speculation profit. Fortunately for us, this particular judgment has given a big relief. Otherwise, department was earlier trying to, really speaking, come out with this type of a interpretation, and really they have put so many people into the difficulty. So this is what is the judgment as far as Samba Trading is concerned. But similarly, we have a judgment from Lokmat newspapers also, that's Bombay High Court, and therefore that is as far as we are concerned for our benefit. Then we come to purchase and sale of shares of other companies. Now, if you really speaking, again read this particular explanation, it says consists in the purchase and sale of shares of other companies. Now here, there was an argument which was advanced that does it presuppose that, what does it mean? Does it mean plurality of transactions and plurality of companies? Fortunately for us, again, we have got a judgment of Lakshmi Feeds and Exports Limited, which is Annexure 5. And that I will read it out. Fortunately for us, Lakshmi Feeds is something which is Mr. Dastur's judgment. So you will be in a position to see good arguments there. Just 1 minute. Sagar, could you get Lakshmi Feeds?
Yeah, I have opened that only.
Yeah. So the head note says section 73 losses, speculation losses, assessment year 86-87. Whether a single transaction of purchase and sale of shares can attract provisions of explanation to section 73, heard no. Whether word used in section 73 being companies and not simply company, plurality of transactions and plurality of companies is a precondition for attracting provisions of explanation to section 73, head yes, whether acquiring shares by subscription of public issue. Now here there is a distinction which is introduced between purchase and acquisition. Suppose I apply for a public issue, then in that particular case, when the shares are allotted to me, it is an acquisition and not purchase. So purchase is generally presupposed as a secondary market purchase and not primary market. This is what is something which is, see, this particular deeming provision, it has been really interpreted to the extent possible. Each and every word has been interpreted so that we are having some kind of a lead available for each and every judgment. Now, if you see here in the end again, in paragraph 8, the explanation can be invoked only when the conditions specified therein are satisfied. I am coming to the last paragraph of paragraph 8, about 7 to 8 lines from the bottom, which are marked. The explanation can be invoked only when the conditions specified therein are satisfied. And one of the conditions in terms of the plain language of the explanation is that there should be purchase and sale of shares of companies, and use of the word companies in plural stipulates plurality of transactions and not a solitary transaction, as in the present case. In this view of the matter, we find merit in the appeal of the assessee, and so we set aside the orders of the revenue authorities and allow the appeal. So this is what is something which is as far as the last, even acquisition of shares I have already covered. Now I have given few of the examples here just for the purposes of explaining this. Anybody has got any questions now before we start with the small examples? Anil, you can supplement whatever I have talked on. If at all I have left out something.
Part of the Sturi judgment argument, which in that particular Lakshmi feeds, is apart from the plurality, the concept that the adventure in the nature of trade concept cannot be imported into this factor. So therefore, what they were trying to, because that was a situation pre-GAR. So take a case where there is a solitary transaction, and the solitary transaction results in, so you suppose you bought a very high risk share, and you bought it and you sold of a single company, and a loss was incurred. The question therefore was that in such a scenario, would the principle of adventure in the nature of trade be adopted? That was the issue, and there the tribunal, they have come to a conclusion, no, that you cannot import that concept into a deeming fiction. That also is important.
I just wanted one small thing to be brought to the attention of everybody. Is really speaking, Anil, if at all you have seen Eastern Aviation judgment, you know, it's really speaking settling, rather disturbing the entire mathematical situation which we have learned in the coordinate geometry. That on x-axis, if you are plotting out something, on the right hand side you are having positive, on the left hand side you are having the negative. Surprising part is in Eastern Aviation Calcutta, the judgment said that minus 25 is greater than 3. This is what is a wonder. But if you really speaking read that particular judgment, what I'm trying to tell is 3 was actually the income from other sources in the nature of a dividend. Minus 25 was business loss. In that scenario, the Calcutta High Court took a view that this particular explanation will be applicable. Why? Because if at all you set off this business loss against income from other sources, gross total income will be technically 0. Now, when something is 0, you cannot say what it is mainly consisting of. And therefore, once I had this particular matter discussed with Percy, so then Percy, really speaking, come to this conclusion as far as Eastern Aviation is concerned, that their conclusion is right. Unfortunately, their rationale is something which was wrong, but basically the conclusion remains right. That is what it is. So this is something which was,
no, you are right, because otherwise when they said minus 25 is more than something, because to illustrate, it's like this, that suppose you have a share trading business and you incur a loss of 1 crore, and then you have some other business which results in a profit of 1 crore. Now what will happen is that, suppose you get into the computation mode,
yes,
and this 1 crore loss is set off against 1 crore income, there will be no business income or loss which enters the gross total income. So that particular loss which was possibly created will continue to be assessed as business loss and get the benefit of set off. That is what Eastern Aviation wanted to overcome, basically. So
yes.
when they came to that conclusion, what Percy said is absolutely right. The decision was right, but the rationale was
The
wrong.
rationale was really, but yes, this is something which really speaking, and if at all you see, really speaking, Dr. Praveen P. Shah had done a lot of analysis on this particular explanation. He had gone through form number 1 at that time, which we were filing for the Companies Act. And then he went on analyzing this particular provision. Unfortunately, he's not there now, but his research on this particular matter also was tremendous on that particular matter. You must be aware that on BCA, he had this particular matter several years before also. Anyway, so basically, this is what it was. Now, small examples I have given just to explain this particular concept. Like A Limited is engaged in the business of manufacture of toys. I have shown that income credited to P&L is dividend of 5 lakhs, income from toys business, do not have any quarrel. Gross total income is 7 lakhs. Income from toys business, it will be a business income. There is nothing which you need to apply Section 73 explanation because it is not pertaining to purchase and sale of shares. Then you go to case number 2, where your dividend income is 5 lakhs, income from toys business is 2 lakhs, income from dealings in shares is 2 lakhs. So total income from business is 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs being more than 4 lakhs. Here, really speaking, this particular income also will not be considered to be a speculation. So income from dealing will be treated as non-speculation. Then you come to case 3, where dividend is 5 lakhs, income from toys business is 2 lakhs, from dealings in shares is 4 lakhs. So now income from business is coming to 6 lakhs. So gross total income is 11 lakhs. So income from dealing in shares in case number 3 will be treated as speculation business income, because in this case, business income is greater than income from other sources. Now you go to 4, where dividend income is 5 lakhs. As just now Anil gave an example. So income from toys business is 2 lakhs. Loss from dealings in shares is 4 lakhs. So after I set off this particular loss, I am coming to a situation of loss from dealings in shares, which is net is 2 lakhs. When I set this off, gross total income is 3 lakhs, which is mainly consisting of income from other sources. And therefore, this loss is to be treated and it is allowed to be set off. This is what is something which I just wanted to explain why I took this particular matter. I was just talking in the morning to Deepak today that sometimes it so happens that at the fag end of the year, client suddenly comes out with a fantastic idea that I have got this much profit. Why not I, really speaking, do trading in shares and show some losses and set it off? If at all you come across any such situation, unless and until you have examined the computation of income, please do not advise as to whether that loss will be a trading loss or speculation loss or what it is. That was the basic purpose of really taking up this. With this, I have concluded. I think I have finished it a little faster than what it was required to, but anyway. anybody is having any questions, if
So this particular section is applicable only for companies.
absolutely.
So if such kind of adjustments or maybe some trading is done at the fag end by an individual, he will not come into this purview of this
Absolutely.
section.
Absolutely.
So what may be the reason? What may be the reason why they have excluded other entities?
Perhaps companies are more prone to doing at a larger magnitude. As it is individuals, whatever they are doing, everybody is fully aware about it. As far as losses are concerned, let us be very clear, loss is a full commodity, technically. We cannot elaborate much on that particular matter.
Sir, this is Ankit here again. Just wanted a clarification. In case 4, if in case the loss of our dealing of shares was 14 lakhs, then Eastern Airlines would come into play and it would be treated as a speculation loss, right?
True, true. Because then in that case, what will happen is your dividend income will be wiped out. No?
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, additions, contributions? Please go ahead and ask. He is there to answer your questions. In the process, everybody will learn.
Pramod, also cover one aspect because the words used in the section are principal business.
Yeah.
So that aspect also, if you just dwell upon what constitutes principal business, because that also is an important aspect.
Yeah.
Whether it is only numerical or some other test.
Yeah, what you say is right. That really speaking, what has happened is the Concord Commercial, which is really speaking a special bench judgment of Mumbai Tribunal, okay, has given a lead in that matter. And what they have mentioned is that when you are really speaking, dealing with principal business, you are looking at the source. But when it comes to the first, where the arithmetical test is involved, there you are looking at the head of the income. If at all I get that particular part, I'll just try and lay my hands on Concord Commercial, and that marked portion I will be in a position to tell. 1 minute. So, I have marked it portions.
Have you shared that Concord to me?
Yes. Concord is with you also. I have mentioned that for various issues, because it's a special bench. It is there. Mumbai special bench, it is 95 ATD 117.
Yeah. Just below that.
Yeah. I have mentioned that as a standby because I was knowing that Anil will definitely ask me this. In fact, this is the judgment where they have very clearly mentioned that dividend is to be treated as income from other sources, even if you are holding shares as a stock in trade. So that confusion, I think they have really speaking resolved here. I'll just lay my hands on that. It's a very big judgment.
I got one now. May I ask?
Yeah, go ahead. Hold your mic a little near.
My name is Vidyadhar Somani. Regarding this principal business, what Anil sir had said, the two criteria required that my memorandum and articles memorandum should say that this is my principal business, and then does it require also that the company should be registered as a NBFI or NBFC?
Yeah, sorry, I did not understand the question.
So,
1 minute.
I think his question is whether is it required that that principal business is also required to be mentioned in the memorandum of association, or we have to just go by arithmetics.
No, the arithmetics are something which are applicable in the first part of the exception. Principal business.
What about NBFI? Now NBFI.
Just I find out that, unfortunately. Yeah, paragraph 12 talks that while examining the composition of the gross total income, the revenue is trying to identify the principal business carried on by the assessee as its main source of income. The inquiry regarding source of income is relevant in identifying the principal business of an assessee. In computing gross total income, what is relevant is heads of income, that there should not be any confusion between source of income and heads of income. In the context of explanation in section 73, which is based on the concept of gross total income, the relevant factor to be looked into is head of income. This is what is something, I mean, we have covered.
Yes.
Yeah. Principal business I purposely did not cover because basically what happened is the principal business of purchase and sale of shares. Of course, there was one view at one point of time, as you are aware, that in case of a share broker, share transactions on behalf of his client, whether it was considered as a main business is purchase and sale of shares, there it was held that when he's doing it on behalf of the clients, that is not his main business. His main business should be what reflects in his income. So if at all he is doing a proprietary trade in his own account, then in that case it has considered and not that.
That's absolutely right, because when you trade on behalf of others,
Yes.
the others business would be, because you are a broker, so the others business or investment may be in shares or trading as otherwise.
Yes.
But as far as you are concerned, your income is only commission income and nothing else, or brokerage. So therefore that turnover or whatever that is it cannot be your the purchase
Turnover
and sale by them cannot be considered for your
tax auditor. Correct. That is
even tax auditor, otherwise that is not your principal business.
Correct.
Your business is not your business is a broker.
That is an agent acting on behalf of undisclosed principal. Therefore, really speaking, that brokerage income is to be considered as the turnover and not the value of the shares dealt with. That is what it is. Correct. So with this, I think we have concluded. Hopefully, are there any questions?
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, I have one query. I just wanted to confirm, as now dividend income is taxable, so whether section 14A will not play any role, right? That for disallowance purpose, which we earlier used to calculate section 14A disallowance?
It should not.
Yes, na?
Yeah. At least on dividend account, it should not.
As dividend is taxable now from this year.
True.
We have almost, sir, completed and concluded, and there are not many questions. The reason being that you have taken this topic so well and covered so much, and you have satisfied some Anil Sathe, you have satisfied Deepak Tikekar. so,
Perhaps, perhaps they decided to keep silence. You know?
Yeah, but Pramod, it was an excellent presentation.
Yeah. Good.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
Deepak ji, just can you conclude it for the day on behalf of everybody?
Yeah, I had a talk with Pramod in the morning, a detailed talk for a long time. And in spite of a lot of difficulties which he is facing at his family level, the way he has presented it today, I propose a hearty vote of thanks to him. Excellent presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anil, Deepak, for the guidance all the time. Really speaking, it is basically.
Sagar, now you take next time. 46A is already pending. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, 45 fours you ask somebody to take now. 45 4 read with 9B. That could be interesting.
Prepare that. We will prepare that in advance, because normally we are having 2 or 3 meetings preparation in advance. That is how even Pramod could take it, because I was after him for some time, and he was ready. So I will take your suggestion and I will ask somebody to prepare on that.
Yeah.
Although maybe 1 or 2 next one meeting at least, it is already.
No, you can take it anytime. No rush.
Okay.
This is also my point. Section 45, 4 or 9A. I also to personally WhatsApp to the Sagar sir to take this point also. It was very important right now.
Okay, I'll speak with you. If you could lead that, study and lead that, it will be great. Parimal ji.
Sir, it's take a time, but I can try it.
Okay, that's great. So with this, we will end our meeting. Thanks a lot, Pramod ji, for your time and sharing your knowledge. Thanks a lot, and we'll be meeting once again on 29th of April. That is 2 weeks from now.